Express. Uh, so today we're actually going to be talking about dangerous romance, but it's going to be a bit different. So I'm not gonna do like a typical review. Today I'm actually going to be talking about Kang and Saliom. So I'm going to be talking about the characters. I'm going to talk about their relationship a bit and like just their differences and kind of how they relate to each other and like what they mean to each other and stuff like that. So it's going to be a real good time. Strap in, get some popcorn or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, so if you guys have been watching this series, if you guys have been keeping up with it, by the time this airs, it should be already far along. But going by like what we know so far, I'm just gonna talk about who they are as people, and kind of like what drew them together, and things like that up until where I'm watching. Um, for now is episode 6. Um, yeah, so that's where I. This is where the journey is. But in regards to that, kind of where they were in the beginning, Kang, being a really big bully, just being a complete a hole to Salom for like no reason other than the fact that he just wanted to be one. Um, he felt, as a very rich kid, I think he just felt it was in his right to make fun of someone who was under different circumstances than he was, and so he chose Salom. Um, and so in the beginning, they had a very adversarial relationship, and it was very like, I dislike you. Um, and that's how that um, progressed, with the whole bullying and the whole, forced kiss that happened between them in the beginning. Um, yeah, he did really awful things to him. Um, and then, to the point where like Kang's grandmother had to step in, and she knew her grandson was like stepping out of line, and it's like, hey, you can't, continue on with this behavior. Which I gotta give it to her. Most grandmothers of rich sons, probably would have stuck up for their grandsons, and she was like, "No, we're not gonna do this." Salome, on the other hand, is a very sweet kid. Um, Despite his circumstances, despite being as poor as he is, he still cares about people. He still is willing to help others. He really wants to do well. He doesn't let his circumstances bring him down in life. He still is very positive. He fights for his friends. He fights for social justice. He doesn't let himself get pushed over. Like, that's the thing about it. King is a very mean bully, like in the beginning of the series, like, and he terrorizes Salom, and Salom doesn't give in. Like, he never gives in to that bullying. He just gives as good as he gets, and he doesn't let himself be a victim. In no point in time does like Salom ever cower. Does he ever fear? Does he ever like give in? And that's what I really find amazing about Salome, is like, it's very easy in the face of someone bullying you that way to just give in and just to give up and just to be like, okay, well, this is my life, and I'm just gonna deal with it. But no, like, he just doesn't let Kang get away with things. Um and I think that's pretty great. Now what ends up happening, as we know, is that, Kang needs a tutor, um, because he's failing all his classes, basically. His father doesn't really expect much from him. doesn't really force him to do anything, doesn't, give him any expectations. It's just letting him do whatever he wants. It isn't until Kang goes, I don't remember what episode it is, but he goes and is getting really upset at Saliom for what he feels is ruining his life. And so he goes and he threatens, he tries to go and threaten Saliom with an unloaded pew pew, for all intents and purposes. But lo and behold, when Kang gets there, Saliom is being threatened by real thugs, by real adult thugs, and he gets beaten up pretty badly over Saifa's debts. Saifa is not home. He's working or what have you, and Saliom gets beaten up. And Kang sees this. Kang sees him, getting beaten up, and he points the pew pew at the gangsters, and Kang is really lucky that they didn't call his bluff right then and there, because that could have been really bad. But the gangsters believed him, and they left. And so that kind of started the turnaround to their relationship. Kang realized how bad Saliom had it in life, and just decided that he was no longer going to bully this kid and was going to give him a job and let him tutor him, like his grandmother had wanted him to. So that's basically how their relationship started, or their friendship. Moreover, their friendship, because up until that point, Saliom was trying really hard to get Kang to be willing to have him be a tutor, right? And it was not working no matter what he did. But Saliom never gave up. He was all like, "No, you're gonna let me tutor you or whatever." And it wasn't until that incident that Kang really buckled down and said, "Okay, you can tutor me." And then he told his grandmother, "Okay, yeah, hire him back." Well, okay, so that didn't happen, but he's "Okay, yeah, tutor me." So that happened. The other thing is that Kang's their personalities are very different, right? Kang's personality is very explosive. He tends to have very emotional outbursts. He tends to get angry very easily. He tends to get upset and just explode. And Saliom is very patient. He tends to keep everything to himself. He tends to let things go. He tends to be very tolerant. He doesn't, he takes things on internally and just kind of doesn't want to let anybody down, and just puts his own needs kind of on the back burner. He doesn't expect anything. He doesn't want anything for himself. He just, I want my brother's debts to be cleared. That's all I want. And so he does things with that in mind. He doesn't put his dreams first. He doesn't put himself first at any point. So that's what he's like. And so, anything that makes him uncomfortable, he kind of pushes aside and says, "Okay, how can I make you happy?" That's what Saliom's personality is like. So going forward, in the series, we kind of see that play out, especially in the last episode, in episode 6, where Saliom is trying to navigate his feelings towards Kang, because he realizes that he likes Kang, but then he also understands that Kang doesn't like him back. But he doesn't want to make Kang uncomfortable. So he doesn't know what to do about his feelings. So he just kind of stays quiet and doesn't say anything about them. Whereas Kang is very upset about the fact that Pimpha doesn't like him and expresses that very angrily and takes it out on Saliom.
ไอ้กั้งเป็นไงบ้างวะอาการดีขึ้นปะนี่กูมาซ้อมเต้นแทนมึงแล้วนะเดี๋ยวคืนนี้เนี่ยกูไปซ้อมเต้นให้มึงเดี๋ยวว่าจะให้ซ้อมตอนนี้ก็ได้นะ
มึงเลิกยุ่งกับเรื่องของกูสักทีได้ปะ
เอ้านี่กูช่วยมึงอยู่อะเนี่ยมีโอกาสได้ใกล้ชิดพิมฟ้าทั้งทีเนี่ยมึงแก้พังแต่วันแรกเลยเหรอ
ที่มึงให้กูเป็นลีดเนี่ยก็เพราะเรื่องนี้
ดิมึงก็ได้ทั้งพอร์ตได้ใกล้ชิดคนที่มึงชอบก็นี่แหละที่กูให้มึงเป็นลีดเนี่ยเผลอๆนะมึงถือโอกาสเนี้ยสารภาพรักไปดิกูว่าพิมฟ้าน่าจะมีใจให้มึงอยู่นะ
แกอยากมาเป็นพี่ติวให้เราไหมเห็นออโต้บอกว่าแกยังหางานพิเศษไม่ได้นี่
ตั้งแต่เมื่อไหร่
ไม่รู้ดิรู้ตัวอีกทีฉันก็คอยดูสายลมมาโดยตลอด
ขอได้เลิกยุ่งเรื่องกูสักทีได้ปะ
เอ้ามึงเป็นอะไรของมึงเนี่ยมึงสองคนก็ดูเหมาะสมกันดีไม่ใช่เหรอมึงลองบอกเขาไปยังอ่ะ
มึงฟังกูนะพิมฟ้าเขาไม่ได้ชอบกูเขาชอบมึงพอใจยังไง
So just with that, right? Like, Saliom was doing his best to help Kang, even though, like, Saliom has feelings for Kang. Like, he just wants Kang to be happy, and he knows that Kang likes Pimpha. Like, he knows. And so he was doing his best to be like, I want him to be happy, and it doesn't have to be with me. And so I'm going to do my best to encourage him to be with the person that he wants to be with. And that is putting someone else's needs before himself, before his own wants and desires. Whereas Kang is explosive and upset that, like, Pimpha is not into him. She's into Saliom. And he's upset that she's into Saliom. And instead of talking about it like a person, he just explodes. Like, he just cannot deal with it. So they approach things vastly different. And, you know, and it's just like, why? You know, and I know a lot of people were upset, you know, because, like, he's just trying to help and he doesn't know. And it's hurtful, you know, because Saliom, all he wants to do is help the person that he cares about be happy. And Kang just completely exploded on him for seemingly no reason. But I think what we need to understand is that Kang also doesn't have the best support system at home. I mean, yes, he has a grandmother that loves him and does support him, but, like, his father never really was there for him to provide him with the emotional education that he needed to, like, regulate those emotions. He didn't learn any of that. And the one person that did teach him died, you know, pretty early on in his life. And, you know, from then on, you know, he was kind of on his own. Not to say that his dad was neglectful. I mean, but in a way he kind of was, because all his dad really, you know, knew how to do was to provide him with monetary gifts. And not any discipline, not any form of, like, hey, this is what you do when you're upset. You don't yell at people. You don't explode on people. you control these emotions that you have. But he doesn't really do any of that. So he just does it. He just kind of like explodes them all out. There's another scene where he kind of explodes all that emotion out, but in the opposite way. So this last scene that I'm going to show you is, like, I'm just going to set it up, is when Kang is, like, they're at a soccer game and, things have gone down between them. They're kind of, like, not talking. And Kang is trying to figure out what exactly he feels for Saliom, because a part of it is that, yes, he did feel guilty for the way that he treated him in the beginning. And so it's kind of mixed in with what he kind of feels for him now, which is kind of like, I think I might have like real feelings for you, but I'm scared. Like, I don't know what to do about them. And so, he's trying to mull it over. He's trying to go over their interactions, like in his head. He's trying to figure it out. And so meanwhile, Saliom is hanging out with his friends, and there's a particular friend named Guy who he's hanging out with. And Saliom sees him be close with him, and it's driving him crazy, like it's driving him nuts. And so the last straw happens when they're on the soccer field and they're celebrating their win. And so that's where the last kind of bit of Kang's like impulsiveness comes in. So we're just going to go ahead and we're going to watch that. We're going to watch that scene because I think that also gives you an idea of how Kang just kind of reacts to things. It doesn't really think about why he doesn't think about them before he does anything.
เอ้าไอ้เหี้ยอะไรวะ
ยืนเหี้ยไปดิ
เอ้าไอ้เหี้ยเดี๋ยวหันปล่อยเพื่อนกู ไอ้สัตว์ทำเหี้ยอะไรเพื่อนกู
ทำไมมันคุยเหี้ยอะไรกับกู
กูไม่ชอบเห็นมึงอยู่ไกล
กูอยู่กับใครแล้วมึงเสือกเหี้ยด้วยอ่ะมึงมีสิทธิ์อะไรอ่ะกูถามมึงจริงๆอะมึงทำแบบนี้เพื่ออะไรวะเดี๋ยวว่ากูไปทำเชี่ยอะไรมึงรู้สึกผิดอีกปะเฮ้ย
เป็นลมที่เพลอไปรักเธอจะหมดใจก็เป็นได้มากหัวใจว่าความรักไปเธอ
ตอนนี้กูเริ่มชอบแล้ว
เรียกว่าความรักก็เป็นสายลมที่พัดที่ผ่านมาพบเธอเธอขาด
Yeah, so like it's stuff like that, right? Where like Kang didn't really. I mean, he thought about it. He thought about what Saliom means to him, but he didn't think about it. He just kissed him. He was just like, "Well, I'm just gonna kiss you, and we're just gonna think about it afterwards. We're just gonna think about what that means after the fact, and I'm just gonna make out with you right now." And I think like that kind of highlights the difference between Salom and Kang. Salom thinks about things, he thinks about everything, he thinks about the consequences, and he really doesn't do things unless he's really sure about them and unless he's thought things through. And Kang just does things on impulse and doesn't really think about the consequences or doesn't think about what they mean. So it's going to be really interesting going forward and what that means in their relationship and how that moves forward, and what it means for them and how dangerous that's going to be. See what I did there? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this introspective on Kang and Saliom. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe, share if you did. And I hope to see you later. Bye!